You gave them your time. You gave them your money, your resources, your emotional bandwidth. You pulled them out of the abyss when no one else would even look at them. And what was your reward? They resented you. They criticized you behind your back. Eventually, they abandoned you. Or worse, they turned into your most vicious enemy. If you are listening to this, you are probably exhausted. You feel betrayed. You think you made a mistake, that perhaps you weren't kind enough. Or maybe that the world is just entirely populated by ungrateful people. You are wrong. You didn't fail because you lacked kindness. You failed because you misunderstood human nature. You ignored a brutal psychological truth that Friedrich Nietzsche decoded over a century ago. Kindness, when applied blindly, is a weapon that destroys the very person you are trying to save. And inevitably, it destroys you. Before we tear down the illusion of the savior complex and rebuild your understanding of power and boundaries, take a second to subscribe, hit the bell, and like this video. Leave a comment below with your own experience and share this with someone who gives too much. We are building a community of minds that prefer harsh truths over comforting lies. Let us examine the mirror you accidentally held up to them. When you find someone in the mud and you extend your hand, you think you are performing a noble act. Society applauds this. We are taught that self-sacrifice is the ultimate virtue, but the human ego does not operate on morality. It operates on what Nietzsche called the will to power. In the exact moment you pull them up, an invisible, crushing hierarchy is established. You become the savior. They become the victim. You are the one who possesses strength, resources, and stability. They are the one who lacks them. For a fleeting moment, there might be genuine gratitude, but gratitude is an incredibly heavy burden for a fragile ego to carry. To look at you is to be constantly reminded of their own inadequacy. Your very presence becomes a living, breathing receipt of their lowest point. They do not hate you because you did something wrong. They hate you because your capacity to help them highlights their inability to help themselves. You thought you were giving them a lifeline. Psychologically, you were giving them a debt they could never repay, and the mind, unable to process the humiliation of perpetual debt, mutates that gratitude into a dark, silent resentment. Let's dissect the invisible humiliation of helping. When you step in to rescue someone, your conscious mind tells a story of nobility and compassion. You believe you are doing the right thing, but the recipient's unconscious mind registers something entirely different. The unspoken message they hear is, "You are not capable, you are dependent, you are inferior." Nietzsche understood that the core driver of human behavior is not the pursuit of peace or happiness, but the will to power. It is the biological, almost primal need to feel strong, autonomous, and in control of one's own destiny. By swooping in as the ultimate savior, you inadvertently hijack their autonomy. You witnessed them at their absolute lowest. You saw the desperation in their eyes, the financial ruin, or the emotional collapse. And human beings fundamentally despise the witnesses to their own weakness. Let me share a pattern I've observed countless times, one that perhaps you have lived through yourself. Think about a time you lent a significant amount of money to a friend, or put your own reputation on the line to secure them a job. In the immediate aftermath, they likely looked at you with tears in their eyes and said, "I will never forget this. I owe you everything." But pay very close attention to the timeline that follows. Weeks pass, the communication shifts. It becomes strained, formal. They start pulling away. They become defensive when you casually ask how things are going. Eventually, the unthinkable happens. They start criticizing your life choices, minimizing your achievements, or actively tearing you down behind your back. You sit there, paralyzed by the sheer audacity of their ingratitude. You ask yourself, how could they do this after everything I sacrificed? The brutal truth: it is not ingratitude. It is a psychological survival mechanism. Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, taught us about the shadow, the repressed dark parts of our psyche. When someone cannot face the crushing reality of their own inadequacy, they project that darkness outward. The person you saved cannot handle the emotional debt. It is suffocating. So, how does a fragile ego escape an unpayable debt? It rewrites the narrative. Their ego convinces them that you didn't help out of pure kindness. They start telling themselves that you did it to control them, to manipulate them, or simply to feel superior. They convince themselves that your help wasn't actually that valuable, or worse, that they were entitled to it all along. To rid themselves of the agonizing weight of being the inferior one, they must drag you down from the pedestal. They hunt for your flaws. They magnify your mistakes. This is the precise psychological juncture where gratitude curdles into toxic resentment. This resentment does not announce itself with loud, explosive anger. It is a silent, creeping poison. It manifests as subtle, passive-aggressive remarks. It looks like the sudden, deafening silence when you are the one who finally needs a favor or a word of encouragement. This dynamic exposes the terrifying imbalance of power inherent in every human relationship. When you constantly give, pouring out your time, your money, your emotional energy, you elevate your own status while systematically diminishing theirs. You function as the infinite provider, but in doing so, you are unknowingly suffocating their sense of agency. Nobody wants to exist in a perpetual state of subordination. Some individuals would rather detonate a lifelong friendship, burn every bridge, and walk back into the abyss than accept a position of permanent psychological inferiority. It is brutal, it is tragic, but it is entirely human. This silent jealousy is often the most dangerous kind. Because you are stable, disciplined, and capable, your very existence becomes a mirror reflecting their chaos and failures. And not everyone possesses the mental resilience to look into that mirror. Instead of rising to your level, it is psychologically easier for them to shatter the mirror. Instead of admiring your strength, they mock it. Instead of saying, thank you, they belittle your character. Nietzsche called this the morality of resentment, where the weak transform their own powerlessness into a weapon against the strong. For those of you navigating the modern world, a world obsessed with hustle culture, endless networking, and performing success, this dynamic is even more pronounced. You are told to build your tribe and lift others up. But the exhaustion you feel, the profound burnout that makes you want to isolate yourself, doesn't always come from working too hard. Often, it comes from the emotional hemorrhage of carrying people who secretly resent you for carrying them. You are experiencing the hidden tax of the savior complex. You pour your energy into fixing their lives, battling existential dread on their behalf, only to be met with covert narcissism and betrayal. You must realize that true mental resilience is not about enduring abuse from those you've helped. It is about recognizing when your noble intentions are being weaponized against you. You are not a rehabilitation center for broken egos. The more you try to shield them from the consequences of their own actions, the more you stunt their personal growth. You rob them of the very struggles they need to develop their own inner strength. When you strip away the romanticized versions of friendship and loyalty, you are left with the raw architecture of the human psyche. We are driven by pride. When you solve a crisis for someone, you temporarily pause their suffering, but you permanently injure their pride. And a wounded ego is far more dangerous than an ungrateful heart. The next time you feel the urge to intervene, to fix, to rescue, pause, look at the person in front of you. Are you offering them a tool to build their own foundation? Or are you handing them a crutch they will eventually beat you with? Helping is an art form. It requires as much boundary setting as it does generosity. It requires the wisdom to know that some people must hit absolute rock bottom before they can respect the hand that pulls them out. This realization is a bitter pill to swallow. It forces you to look inward, to do your own introspection, and ask a terrifying question. Why do I feel the need to save people who do not want to save themselves? Are you helping them because they need it? Or are you helping them because you need to feel needed? Let us confront the most agonizing variable in this equation. It is relatively easy to sever ties with an opportunistic colleague or an ungrateful friend. But what happens when the person bleeding you dry shares your last name? What happens when the emotional parasite is your sibling, your parent, or your adult child? This is where Nietzsche's philosophy collides violently with societal conditioning. We are indoctrinated from birth to believe that family is sacred, that blood dictates infinite sacrifice. But biology does not excuse psychological abuse. When a family member repeatedly weaponizes your resources, be it your money, your living space, or your mental sanity, they are not asking for help. They are demanding a hostage. And they will use the heaviest weapon in the human arsenal to keep you compliant: guilt. Guilt is the invisible chain that binds the savior to the victim. To break it, we must turn to Carl Jung and the concept of shadow work. Your shadow is the repository of everything you have been taught to reject about yourself. Society tells you that refusing to help a struggling family member makes you a monster, cold and selfish. Therefore, to protect your self-image as a good person, you repress your valid anger, your exhaustion, and your basic right to self-preservation. You keep paying their debts. You keep fixing their self-inflicted disasters. You keep enduring their silent jealousy and passive-aggressive remarks at the dinner table. Jung taught us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. You must face the terrifying darkness within yourself. You must be willing to look in the mirror and accept that, yes, sometimes you have to be the bad guy in someone else's story to save your own life. You must embrace the capacity to say no and let them experience the free fall of their own choices. Consider the reality surrounding familial financial support. Studies and behavioral patterns indicate that a vast majority of adults providing continuous financial aid to capable adult family members experience severe burnout, delayed retirement, and chronic anxiety. You are bankrupting your own future to fund their irresponsibility. You are not protecting them from the world. You are protecting them from reality. And reality is the only teacher that forces human beings to adapt and grow. When you establish ruthless boundaries with family, the immediate reaction will be explosive. They will accuse you of betrayal. They will rally other relatives against you. They will play the victim with masterful precision. This is the extinction burst, the desperate escalation of a parasite realizing its host is cutting off the supply. Hold your ground. This is the ultimate crucible of mental resilience. The ancient Stoics understood this boundary intimately. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire plagued by betrayal and incompetence, wrote extensively about maintaining one's inner citadel. He recognized that you can offer guidance, you can offer an example, but you cannot force rationality or discipline into another human mind. Your absolute jurisdiction ends at the boundary of your own mind. When you obsess over fixing a family member, you abandon your own inner citadel. You surrender your peace to a chaotic variable you cannot control. The harsh truth is that some people use their suffering as a shield against responsibility. By endlessly rushing in to save them, you validate their helplessness. You become an accomplice in their stagnation. Loving someone does not mean absorbing their chaos. Giving does not mean sacrificing your autonomy. If they truly want to improve, your withdrawal of absolute support will force them to stand on their own 2 feet. If they only wanted a caretaker, they will abandon you. Let them. Letting go of the deeply ingrained need to save your family is an act of profound existential courage. It is the realization that you cannot live someone else's life for them, no matter how much you love them. So do we stop helping entirely? Do we embrace a cynical isolation, watching others drown while we stand safely on the shore? No, that is not philosophy. That is simply bitterness. The answer is not to abandon humanity. The answer is to completely redefine what it means to help. You must draw a violent, uncompromising line in the sand between helping and saving. Saving is an ego-driven act. When you save someone, you treat them as inherently helpless. You take the steering wheel of their life because, deep down in your subconscious, you believe you can drive better than they can. Helping, on the other hand, is offering a map. You provide the tool, but they must walk the agonizing miles themselves. If you want to survive the modern landscape of relationships without bleeding out emotionally, you must operate by a new code to protect your sanity and preserve their autonomy, a core value essential to any functioning adult. Here are the 5 brutal rules of engagement. Rule number 1, never help to be liked. If your generosity is a transaction, if you are secretly exchanging your money, time, or resources for loyalty, affection, or admiration, you are not helping. You are manipulating. This is what psychologists refer to as a covert contract. You are handing them an emotional bill they never explicitly agreed to pay. When they inevitably fail to meet your silent expectations, you will feel betrayed. But that betrayal was orchestrated by your own hidden agenda. Give because it aligns with your internal virtues, not because you are trying to purchase validation to soothe your own imposter syndrome. Rule number 2. expect absolute amnesia. Do not demand eternal gratitude. The half-life of gratitude is shockingly short. Behavioral data and psychological observation reveal a grim reality. The intense thankfulness a person feels at the exact moment of rescue degrades into entitlement within weeks, sometimes days. They will forget the late-night phone calls. They will forget the money you wired them to save their business. They will forget how you defended their name in rooms they weren't in. Accept this baseline of human nature. If you require a monument built in your honor, keep your resources to yourself. Rule number 3, never resurrect the ghost of your charity. The most destructive phrase in the human language is, "After all I've done for you." The moment you utter those words, you are weaponizing your past kindness. You are violently forcing them back into the inferior position of the debtor, reminding their ego of its darkest, weakest hour. If they have forgotten your help, let them forget. Reminding them will not spawn sudden appreciation. It will only ignite their resentment. You cannot shame someone into respecting you. Rule number 4, operate on a strict sunken cost mentality. When you give someone money, consider it burned. When you give them your time, consider it gone forever. Only offer what you are perfectly content to lose, without a single shred of bitterness. If giving a friend $1,000 will make you hate them when you see them buying a new phone instead of paying you back, do not give them the money. Protect your peace by capping your exposure. You are responsible for guarding your own mental resilience. Rule number 5, never unbalance your own citadel. You cannot be a pillar of strength if your own foundation is crumbling. Do not sacrifice your sleep, your financial security, or your mental health to stabilize someone else's chaos. We culturally champion self-reliance, yet we hypocritically burn ourselves to the ground trying to manage other people's lives. The chronic anxiety that grips your chest, the exhaustion that fogs your mind, these are physical symptoms of a psychological hemorrhage. You are of no use to anyone if you burn out. To help someone effectively is to make yourself obsolete. Your ultimate goal should be to render your assistance entirely unnecessary. Think about the physical manifestation of chronic dependency. You can see it in their posture, the lack of light in their eyes, the perpetual victimhood etched into the micro-expressions of their face. When you endlessly fix their problems, you are validating that helpless posture. You are neurologically wiring them to seek you out instead of seeking a solution. You confirm their deepest, darkest fear, that they are indeed too weak to survive alone. True practical philosophy demands that we ask hard, uncomfortable questions of ourselves. It requires the maturity to give freely, and the even greater maturity to walk away when your giving becomes toxic. So how do we navigate this psychological minefield? How do we exist as empathetic, capable individuals in a world where generosity is routinely punished by those who consume it? We do not stop giving. We stop giving blindly. We dismantle the savior complex and replace it with a framework of ruthless emotional maturity. We adopt the discipline of the ancient Stoics, establishing boundaries that protect our inner citadel while allowing us to interact with the brokenness of the world without being consumed by it. Here is the unvarnished architecture of helping without becoming a casualty. Principle 1, eradicate the desire to be liked. The moment your help becomes a covert transaction for affection, validation, or loyalty, it ceases to be help. It becomes manipulation. You are attempting to purchase their devotion with your resources. When the recipient unconsciously realizes they have been bought, their ego will rebel. They will punish you for the invisible contract you forced upon them. You must give solely because the act aligns with your internal moral compass, independent of their reaction. If you require applause, buy a ticket to a theater. Do not extract it from a vulnerable person. Principle 2, accept the absolute expiration date of gratitude. Humans are biological organisms wired to adapt, not to maintain infinite ledgers of moral debt. The intense, tearful relief they express today will inevitably mutate into a baseline expectation tomorrow. This is not a character flaw, it is neurological adaptation. If you choose to give, consider the ledger wiped, clean the exact second the resource leaves your hand. Expecting eternal gratitude is a psychological trap you set for your own inevitable disappointment. Principle 3, never, under any circumstances, resurrect the ghost of your charity. After all I've done for you is the battle cry of the weak, exhausted savior. Uttering those words instantly invalidates whatever nobility existed in your original act. It weaponizes your past, kindness, and violently forces the other person back into the humiliating position of the debtor. It confirms their deepest, darkest suspicion that your help was actually a leash. If they forget your sacrifice, let them. You cannot shame someone into respecting you, and attempting to do so only breeds venomous contempt. Principle 4. Cultivate absolute detachment. Give only what you are entirely prepared to watch burn. If lending a friend money means you will silently scrutinize their future purchases, do not lend it. If giving your time means you will harbor resentment over their lack of progress, keep your time. You are not a martyr. Protect your exposure. Operate on a strict sunken cost mentality. You can only give safely from a place of absolute surplus, where the loss of the resource does not unbalance your own equilibrium. Principle 5. Recognize the carrying capacity of the recipient. Emotional maturity dictates that we accept a harsh reality. Not everyone possesses the psychological spine to carry the weight of what you offer. When you give too much, too fast, you flood their system. You highlight the vast disparity between your stability and their chaos. Some people will literally collapse under the pressure of your unyielding generosity, and in their collapse, they will try to drag you down with them. This brings us to the final, uncomfortable truth. It is a matter of psychological categorization. Strong individuals, those who have integrated their shadow, who possess genuine self-awareness and accountability, can receive help, process the inherent vulnerability, and convert it into genuine, lasting appreciation. They view your assistance as a tool to rebuild their own foundation. Weak individuals, those entirely governed by an unexamined, fragile ego, experience your help as an existential threat. They view your assistance as a blinding spotlight on their inadequacy, an indictment of their character. They will inevitably bite the hand that feeds them, because the hand is a reminder that they were starving. Understanding this singular pattern will immunize you against a lifetime of psychological torment. If the words spoken here feel like a heavy mirror reflecting your own hidden scars, it is because you have played this dangerous game for too long. You have bled yourself dry for people who complained about the mess your blood made on their floor. It ends now. Embed this into your psyche. Helping is not saving. Loving is not self-immolation. Giving is not the absolute sacrifice of your autonomy. The most profound wisdom you can acquire is the discipline to stand back, silence your own ego, and allow someone the dignity of their own struggle. Sometimes the only way a person learns how to walk is if you definitively, unapologetically, stop carrying them. Protect your citadel, master your mind. Do not let the fragility of others dictate your peace.